Oh, I gotta tell it that I am okay with that. So, Christine, were you going to introduce us, or are we just going to start?
Oh, I figured.
We're just going to start then.
Yeah, go start.
All right. Hi, I'm Karen Hochman Brown, and I've got a show going on at Tag Gallery, and I'm going to talk about it today with Andi Campognone, who is, among other things, director of the Museum of Art and History in Lancaster. And you know a lot more about you than I do. So.
Thank you for inviting me to be here with you today. And yeah, I mean, Karen knows I'm a humongous fan of her work, and we've had the opportunity to work together multiple times, both at the Museum of Art and History and through Kauai. So that's always been fun. And, and I get to work with you again in 2 weeks at the next Kauai in Mill Valley. So I'm looking forward to that. But when you asked me to have this conversation about your work, I was super excited because obviously the work was made and inspired by your time in Kauai, and I, as a longtime resident of Hawaii, like those are things that are, that's important to me, and I wanted to be able to speak about that and share that with and have a discussion with you about it.
And I thought perfect, because they were done in Kauai, that you would be perfect to talk to. My big Hawaii connection.
Yeah.
So I guess I should probably start the slideshow. Yeah. Or
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see what I prepared here. Gotta move things. All right. So the show is called Passing Through. And this hole that we're looking at right behind Passing was part of a sculpture that was outside of one of the outside of our condo. And I just really like walking by it and seeing how the shape of the cylinder on the tube there would shift, and you would look through it. I just found it very fascinating, and knew I had a show coming up, and decided to use that kind of tunnel passageway portal as a theme to direct the work that I was doing. So the first thing I wanted to do is we're going to play an unfinished documentary that LA Art Documents did of the work that's installed at Tag Gallery. And we're just going to watch that, and I'll sit back and enjoy. I'm Karen Hochman Brown. Welcome to my show, Passing Through. We had the opportunity to leave the mainland when the pandemic got really bad, and we kind of escaped to Kauai. And once we got there, past the airplane drama and wearing PPE, we landed in paradise. And the work that I'm presenting here is the result. The impetus for the forms that I'm presenting were from a stone sculpture that was outside of our window in the condominium we were staying in. It had a hole drilled through it. This tunnel, these circles, this looking at one surface but seeing something through on the other side. And I think we all need that after we've gone through this past year, to be able to see that we're not stuck where we are now, that there's something on the other side just beckoning us to pass through and make it to the other side. So I've incorporated tunnels and gazing globes and fantastical sunsets and seascapes and cloud formations into a place to focus your attention away from the normal, kind of magical vistas. So for this show, I decided to print what I call my major pieces on wood, and because the pieces are very natural and I wanted to feel kind of more from the islands. There's sort of a velvety feel to them that brings out a real warmness in the images. I've also printed two of my pieces on a large scale on wall tapestries. I decided to use them as the curtain that hangs and separates the area behind me, where I have some projections, some animated artworks. The two animations that I have now kind of come from a long line of animated work that I've done. The one piece I'm calling meditation, and it's the waves going in and out with some globes as a added element, a different way to look at the waves. The other piece, I'm using flowers and again the waves in a tunnel that I've tried to simulate the act of breathing. I've given it a very rhythmic pulse where the circle grows and recedes and swells and recedes. And that's one I've called respiration. This piece actually turned into a collaborative piece with fellow artist David Stewart Klein, who did the soundtrack for it. In this show, I've kept the titles somewhat ambiguous, hoping that the viewer will be able to tell stories of their own. I have one piece called Bananas, which actually is a big, bright pink banana flower. But during the pandemic, I was feeling a little bananas. So some of the titles have more than one meaning. I have a piece called Loopy, and the clouds were sort of drawn thin and up and then funnel-like. And I repositioned them and masked them out and turned them into these loops that are holding up the ocean. The whole experience of the pandemic we've been shut inside. It's just been really difficult. And I'm hoping that the artwork that I'm presenting is able to help you breathe and open up and realize that there is something beyond where we've been stuck this year. Yep. Don't want that, whatever that is. Okay, so yeah.
So
Go ahead.
yeah, so the stone that's there that everyone sees on the left side of the screen is the sculpture that was outside of your condominium.
Yeah.
And I can't tell from this one if this was mechanically drilled through.
It's pretty regular.
Okay, all right. One of the things in the cornerstones of the heiaus in Hawaii you would find holes where the posts of the building of the structure that would be on top. So I'm wondering if this is maybe one of those stones that came from a heiau, or possibly from a structure that was like the cornerstone of the structure, which it could have been. I don't know because I didn't see it, and I can't tell if it looks like it's mechanically done or if it was actually hand, ground down. And I can't tell if it's lava either, or if it was brought from some other place in the world. But what a nice inspiration for that, right? Like the solid rock and like bedrock or lava that's at the core of everything that happens in Hawaii, and also that is the life that comes from the bottom of the ocean that builds the soil, that builds the foundation of the island itself, and then is, eventually turns to soil, which grows all of the food and all of the flora and fauna. So it's a really nice inspiration for your work, for sure. I wanted to kind of talk to you, and you and I talked a little bit about this, about your work outside of the pandemic. and what that looks like. Because I know this obviously was in a specific time in your career and a specific time in our lives right now, but the most of your work does not revolve around a pandemic. And if you could, kind of speak to the inspiration of your work that you've been doing for so long.
I've been working with my own photographs and creating pretty much a kaleidoscopic form, multi-layered distortions of mainly botanical elements that I throw all these layers in Photoshop and cut them apart and reassemble and do lots of shading to give sort of this depth, and each piece has its own gestalt, its own energy. They're I don't know, kind of like little jewel boxes of arrangements of photographic elements that dive deep into the single subject. The other image that's here was kind of my first thought of how I might want to approach this, to like totally get rid of the kaleidoscopic elements and work more, I don't know, photographic trickery, a little bit more recognizable, but that's kind of not what I specialize in. And I think other people were doing, I didn't have enough inspiration to continue on this thread.
But it would be safe to say that the majority of your work, the subject matter comes from nature, which is a very nice, how the subject matter itself is complemented by the use of technology, because no one is just taking images like this with a camera and without that manipulation and without the use of technology. But I think for sure it would be safe to say, as long as I've known your work, you've used nature as like your main inspiration and the main subject matter.
Yes, I kind of say it comes from both of my parents. My mother was like a plant collector. She had all these strange succulents and plants. My grandmother, if the flower was brown or black or green, she owned it. And we do a lot of botanic garden visits and just real interested in flowers. And my father was an amateur photographer, and he took pictures of them, of the flowers. So that was kind of, it came from how I grew up.
That's natural. Yeah.
Yeah.
That awesome.
And taking pictures at the beach, which is kind of a whole nother corner of my artwork. Some more figurative, more technologically different approach.
Well, I love even in your work, your kind of historical work versus this new work, how hopeful all of your work is. Even before the pandemic, you were already composing imagery that made us think about hopeful things. Nothing looked like gloom and doom, and there was nothing, forcing us into, some kind of situation where you're becoming anxious. And often that can happen, right? When you see like the repetition of shapes and colors, even a kaleidoscope version of something often can give people some kind of anxiety, but your work doesn't do that. It always feels hopeful. It always feels fresh. I always feel good after I look at it. And sometimes it makes me inspired to go out and do, I don't know what, gardening for sure, but other things. And like I said earlier, as a longtime resident of the Big Island of Hawaii, the way you used nature and the way the subject matter was crafted and composed, you never created a Hawaii specific image. You and I talked about this earlier about so often people who are not from the island will go to the island and use the subject matter and create what's almost like Hawaiiana, which is, the culture in a stereotyped like a tourist attraction, right? So there's all this like pineapples and surfers and Although those are like really great, they could be really great subject matter, and palm trees, you didn't use those things in a way that created this thing about Hawaii. You used the elements of beauty from Hawaii to create these like other worlds. And I really like that. And I appreciate that because it's, as a lot of Hawaii artists will say, that it's hard for them in the real world because people think that, oh, if you're a Hawaii artist or you make work inspired by Hawaii, it's going to be palm trees and dolphins and rainbows. And although I'm not knocking those, but to make something that I think is artistically significant and that speaks to a time without being gloom and doom, you really used the most beautiful parts of Hawaii in the best way.
Wow, thank you. The working in the, you were talking about the kaleidoscopic forms, feeling hopeful, and how some things can make you uneasy in that reflection world. And I try very hard to keep away from faces. You see faces and insects, particularly with the flowers, and vulvas, but faces are very problematic, because even if you see a face up at the top in whatever patterns are there, and it's a happy face, if you flip it upside down, it's no longer a happy face. So I do try to keep that out of the pieces. I don't want to be, I want to show the beauty that's there and not the creepiness.
Definitely successful doing that, for sure. Yeah.
And sort of in the same way that while I was creating some of these, I've got a piece called Bananas, which I think is the most tropical postcardy of the pieces that I did in this series. It was like, oh, it's starting, even these with this sort of circle, the hibiscus circles, I was like, it's getting a little postcardy here.
I don't know. I see more of like the fern patterns, and I see lava, and like, even though this clearly is hibiscus that you use, like, I don't see the hibiscus. I see like all of the other things that you would find as you were like walking on a trail, you know, through on one of the islands. The lava, both the hard lava and also the fluid lava, and then the ferns. I think this is lovely. And I'm guessing that's the moon. Yeah.
Yeah, we landed, and it was a full moon rise as we were going up the coast to our lodging. The moon and the rainbow are from different periods. The rainbow was kind of from the middle of our trip, and the full moon was actually from the end. But I'm calling it welcome because this moonrise, the background was just spectacular. It was so bright. There you can see a little bit of it. It didn't photograph as well as I would have liked because I didn't dig the luggage for the good camera. But the clouds were lenticular. They had rainbows in them, and it was just pretty amazing.
Oh no, you feel it. They feel electric. They're I think it's really special. It's a great piece. Moonbows, yeah. Also, let's see, the other part of the work that, you know, that you, especially these kind of circular pieces, is like that kind of cycle of life and spirituality and the just the mana. You know, mana is the Hawaiians use that word to describe the life or the life force or the spirit in everything, which is in everything, and the power that you receive from everything that's living or its life form. So I feel like I feel the mana in all of this work, and you definitely, you know, brought that out both with the ocean and the flora and fauna and just the lava itself. So yeah, that was really incredible. Let's talk about your process a little bit.
Okay, I'll go back to before here. These are, I'm not sure if these are the exact images that I use, but these are some of the elements that basically became the main piece. In the kaleidoscopic work, I was very kind of, one of my rules was I was using one image. So this work I've been doing more recently, and actually it kind of did all start during the pandemic with the collaboration work that I did with someone else trying to interpret their work. kind of became this whole new body of work that went in the more of a bilateral reflection rather than in the round. So I'm taking my different pieces and I'm still kind of distorting everything through funhouse mirrors or with strange different kinds of repetition and symmetries. This thing, I think I may have 4 or 5 different images going into this one, and normally I don't play around with the imagery too much, but the clouds were almost looking like, were they hearts or lungs? And I turned them into lungs. So that was, that was some extra manipulation on my part. That's kind of a little, I don't know, an anathema to my process. But, you know, I'm an artist. I can do whatever I want with my work.
Yes, you can.
This is actually the first piece I did in the series, and this was done on my laptop in Hawaii at the awful desk. And it just kind of set the whole tone for the whole show. Trying to keep the floral elements, which are an important part of my work, but what we were doing mainly while we were there was watching the water, watching the sky. And I think that carries through in the whole bit. This next piece, this is the piece called Bananas. Gosh, the farmers markets on Kauai, there were like 3 a week that we would hit, and we're plant-based vegans, and so we were in heaven. And one of the vendors had this flower, which I, of course, couldn't pass up. And this is Bananas.
And I think of all of the work, this is the only one where you actually use like a recognizable images of palm trees. But I like the way that they're upside down as if they're like a design element and holding up that kind of centerpiece. Like they're almost roots to that centerpiece, like holding it up. Yeah, this is really gorgeous. I think I need to have some of these made into pillows for my house in Hawaii.
We'll talk. We can do that.
Yeah.
It's amazing what they can do with digital files.
Yeah.
This piece, as I said, I mean, the clouds, I had to take, I have a zillion pictures of this one kind of outstretched arm cloud that's part of the piece. And I kind of had expected it to be the #1 part of one of my images, not sort of the kind of the second subject, but balance, gotta make it balanced. And this one also, this was the one that was going very tropical, and I sort of wanted to age it, and that's why I put that sort of crystal oval shading in there to make it feel, I don't know, a little more protected and encased.
Still very portal, still very going through, reaching through, seeing through, experiencing through something.
Let's go to the next one. This is, here we can talk a little bit about the process. This piece is called Loopy, and let me give you a little glimpse of Loopy. Here's Loopy. This bottom part here that's labeled beehive ginger sphere. Okay, you can see in the background, that's the flower that I used to create the orb that's in this piece. The program I use to do distortion is a modular graphic synthesizer. So each of these, I don't know if you can see I can't see my mouse. On the right-hand side, under where it says insert and replace, is a tree of different modules that do different things. The top one rotates. The second one makes that sort of globy type thing, and it sort of makes, they're more outside of it as well. The one below that changes scale. The one below that again is another rotation, and the final one is the image that gets fed into the piece. Down at the bottom, you can see that's all like green and red and green and red and everything. Those are different iterations, keyframes that I've made in here, and then I choose the one I like the best to work with.
It seems like there's a lot of work involved in this. It's not just like throw it in the filter and, you know, see what pops out. I imagine you spend a lot of time on these. And I think Monica Marks is asking, how long did it take you to feel comfortable and feel knowledgeable using this computer program?
I've been using it since 1999. And the first, see, 99, it was in 2010. I was doing graphic design work, and this was sort of play around stuff. And the program in 1999 was not nearly as sophisticated as it is now. But I'd play around on it, but I wasn't doing this kind of work on it until 2010, working with images and reflections, and instead of doing fractals and just, you know, in the computer.
That's some old software. I imagine it must have been updated by now, that there might be something.
Yeah.
But you still love the version that you've been using, or?
Oh, no, it's just, I keep upgrading.
Okay, all right, yeah.
Oh, yeah, we're on, it's not even, it's such a professional sounding name. It's called Artmatic. We're Artmatic Designer CXT now, which is, God only, I don't know. Yeah. Every time they upgrade, they get my money too. But
Of course.
And new system software requires new rewrites of programs and all this stuff. So how long did it take me to get comfortable with this program? You know, it's the kind of program you can pick up and use by, see those dice there? Those are the random buttons. So you can click random for a while until you get something you really like, and then you can like even
Reverse engineer
those things. Right. But to get proficient, it took a long time.
Yeah.
You know, I've been.
While we're on the subject of process and like the tools that you're using, I know that you also create work on silk and tapestry. You also create your earrings. Are you wearing some today? Yes. Which definitely are not photographic.
There we go.
Yeah. So can you speak to kind of how you've taken the shapes from your work and turned them into, and we're able to monetize them into kind of smaller objects that are a little bit more affordable and that expand the imagery itself past the two-dimensional, they become sculptural. So can you speak to that?
I create stuff that it's made on their digital files. and there are companies out there that will print on pretty much anything if you send them a digital file. So that part, turning artwork into merchandise is something that is farmed out. The earrings are from my toy, my Glowforge laser writer printer thing that takes a beam of light and cuts things with fire. And so these were actually developed as companion pieces to the banners that I made that hung at MOA as part of the robot show.
Right.
It was called Elementals, and I used the laser cutter to create all sorts of elements of the banners, kind of almost like earrings for these banners, and I hand-tied tassels, and really going back to, I make things all the time.
I think you're a good example for other makers to visualize, and most of them that make 2D work that's static, to be able to see that you can take something from a two-dimensional static image and create something three-dimensional out of it, and that's affordable. It is a great way to create an income. in addition to selling the work itself. But also it's a nice way to continue collaborations and have relationships with institutions like MOA. And I would say Gallery 825 as well, wherever you have like a museum gift shop or a store or an opportunity to sell your work, where it usually is inappropriate to sell the artwork itself, but those kinds of things are available, and they're also available to people who maybe couldn't spend $2,000 on an image, but could spend $100 on the earrings. Like, I love your earrings. I've been buying them and giving them as gifts to people every time there's a birthday. People love them. They're awesome. But I think you're a good example of how to monetize your own, and I don't want to say brand because then your work is fine art work, but you're able to take the shapes and imagery from your two-dimensional work and make it three-dimensional and make it affordable. And I respond to that. And I think a lot of other artists should be able to look at the example that you've set, and could utilize that in their own practice. Let's see what on my notes here. I'll go through here and get to the animations. Yeah.
Okay. This is this guy's called Parting. We can go back to anything at some time.
Okay.
So you want to go do the light?
No, you can go through these and speak to them, because I think they're all really incredible. But eventually I want to talk about your the pulse and the breath of the animation work.
Oh, okay. So talking about making things, this kind of maybe shows what do we have in the video. There were these lighted boxes there that kind of shows you sort of what they are. Here's my glow forge. It's gonna punch holes.
And the sides of those boxes, did you also create that patterning as well? Yes.
Yeah, the on the upper left, this one, these pieces were printed on Kozo paper, from Hiromi paper, and then yeah, the right hand side of that image, I'm pointing at it like you can see what I'm pointing at, those are the box sides, acrylic mediums and different kinds of adhesives. My son got a 3D printer, so he created a little name block for the back of each of these ones that has my logo on it, and it's the same height as the box that holds the batteries that powers the light boxes. And then he also, so everything would be the same height. He also did that little keyhole.
I love these, and I love the fact that every element of the presentation is your design. Like the work is put in and framed by your work, not just like, some random wood frame from Michael's, or they're just not, just a light box that you bought in a store and that you put your image in front of. But every single element of the visual experience is your design. I love that.
In here, the image on the right hand side, that's the Illustrator file. That's what tells the laser printer what to do. Mm-hmm. So the circle, I was able to actually cut my circles in paper using the laser printer, so they're real circles, because I can't do that very well with scissors. And the green lines are etched on the back side of the acrylic, and that's the rays that you see there. And then I nailed I nailed it all together. I think I decided to do that, so if God forbid someone had to get inside to repair the lights, which I don't know if you could even do, you might be able to get in. There was no glue on that paper. So
well, they'll last longer too without glue. And
there's so much glue.
Oh, there is? Oh, forget it. I was going to say, oh, that sounds really archival, but no.
The paper on the back, it's not glued to anything. It's sort of free floating under the nails. So we'll see.
Yeah, but a good example for artists in thinking about presentation of their work, to take it a little bit different, take it in a different direction. It doesn't have to be the traditional, let's put it on a light box and plug it in. Like, let's change what that looks like. And I know for me, thinking about presentation for every exhibition, when artists, you know, there's so much work that's two-dimensional, and we think about how can we change that experience. That's one of the ways, is changing that, the way you're presenting the actual imagery.
Ta-da!
Oh, that's great.
Okay. So.
So now these were the large projections, right? That were,
Yes.
that are in the gallery.
Yeah, this one of the fellow artists who's exhibiting this month scored and performed this, the music for this piece. It didn't exactly change what I was going to be doing. Maybe the pacing of it was fun. Let me know how long of this you want. It goes for 6.
Well, I was just going to say that the music, the score itself, it does assign a specific visual language, because we affiliate that kind of slacky guitar sound to the ocean and surfing and surf culture. And so I would say if there was some other kind of soundtrack with this, it would completely change the meaning of what we're looking at. And I know that you said earlier in the film that these are created with like a pulse or a breath almost. And then having that music kind of takes away that pulse and breath, because it pushes us towards a different visual interpretation or visual language than I think what you meant to do. But I would love to see these without, like, experiencing these in a room without any kind of sound. And just let your own body kind of acclimate to the visual language itself, and like find if, you know, maybe you start breathing in the same tempo or as the movement in the piece itself. I mean, there's nothing wrong with the music, because, you know, I'm a surfer, so but there definitely is a visual language that goes along with that music, and then it takes you to a specific thing, and you can't have your own interpretation of this, because the music is taking you right there to that place, not that place, or the place that I might want to interpret in my own experience with the piece. Yeah.
Interesting.
I was trying to think of like a commercial use for this, like how this could be seen in a large scale public space, because this feels very public art to me. And I wonder what that might look like. I mean, I think in terms of like Kudra Clover does these big, she does projection mapping, and how this really lends itself to what could be a very incredible public art piece that's projection mapping. And I see that someone else is talking about mindful awareness on these, and I believe that there's another piece that doesn't have music, that's just do you have that one?
Yeah, it's starting up right now.
Okay, let's play that.
Here at the set. Oh,
There we
wrong
go.
one. Where did it go? Come on, this one. Not, I'll have to go over to Vimeo. Grab it from there.
So I guess I'm going to bring it up
Nope,
now.
that's the wrong one.
Is that the wrong one?
Yeah. First I have to stop that one. All right. Let's go back to, and then we're going to
I'm going to look at the chat real quick, but Christine, let us know if we're missing anything.
Oh, now I got to start it up.
Oh yeah, Carrie Smith has the same response I have. I see these and I think that they would make incredible public art in like large hotels or in public spaces. Totally agree, Carrie.
Yeah, you're doing great. The only other question was about the circles, which I answered on Facebook, where they came from as far as the stone and
Oh, okay.
yeah.
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 Well, while you're doing that, let's talk about the subject that we don't want to talk about.
Sure.
And that is with these new animated pieces, that is there the thought or the intention of moving towards making NFTs?
Oh, gee. You know, guess where I was when NFTs like hit everything. Yeah, the boy, that sound like, gosh, that sounds exactly like what my work is. I've got these all, I mean, actually I submitted some to Peter Mays. There's going to be doing something NFT, something. But yeah, I have these like 12-second, 24-second loops of digital craziness, you know, lines going weird and strange, crazy computery stuff. Usually with very, very bright rainbow colors, full saturation. And then I start reading, you know, first your head starts spinning a lot. But the environmental toll, I've got one of my children says, "That's money, go for it, it's money." And I've got my other child who says, "Absolutely not, I will not talk to your friend." But you know, it's the whole environment thing is really going to stop me from really being involved in that. You know, yes, you can get it from other sources, you can make it good, but then what would happen if all that energy that you made just to make Bitcoin, instead of going to Bitcoin, did something good?
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
So even if it's sustainable, it's still ridiculous.
And is it necessary? Like, I mean, it's not the same experience that you have when you're like Carrie and I were both saying, you walk into a big open space and you see this projection or you see this digital thing moving and you have a physical response to that because you're physically in the space and you're having a reaction to that, that you're not going to have from an NFT that, you know, may or may not be on a screen that's this big or your phone or whatever. It's not the same thing. But I mean, then there's that whole dilemma again of like, how do we experience anything that's digital? But I think what you've done digitally and the way you've presented it allows us to have an actual relationship with the object or with the moving image. And I everyone that knows me knows, like, I'm not a fan of NFTs. I think it's awesome if artists are making work, but on the environmental side, I can't get behind it.
No.
Yeah.
It's
I don't think it does anything to improve our quality of life. And I feel like it's irresponsible, but I'm not here to get on my soapbox about that. I'm here to talk about your awesome work and support you. So.
Okay, well, let's see. I can screen share again, and I got the other thing.
Okay.
Up. Where we go there, meditation.
I don't think we can hear. Is there sound that goes to this?
Just ocean waves.
Okay, yeah, I don't hear the sound. For a second I heard it and then it went away. This one makes me anxious though.
I had that response too.
Yeah.
Oh, then you're really gonna love it. The 5 balls go across the waves too. That was.
But this one does feel a lot more like the breath and meditative and I don't know, the pulse like, especially since you have a literal connection to the waves itself, and it's like the pulse of the earth and how the gravitational pull is creating the wave. And yeah, there's no sound.
Okay.
That's all right. So unless there is unless there's any other questions, I did want to ask you what's next.
Okay, let's see. Next month, I'm the Altadina Artist of the Month, and anyone who donates at a certain level to the Altadina Arts thing gets 12 Artist of the Month pieces of artwork. So I'm participating in that. I'm going to keep Kauai. We're going back to Hawaii for a couple of weeks. Art-wise, I guess my next show at TAG is like in January, February, so I better get on it. My thoughts on that is that I would pull out and augment some of my purely digital forays, real design, movement, color. And I showed some of those things with Christine early. I don't know how long ago it was, sometime in the pandemic. We did a show through Shoebox Projects.
Right.
That was the digital stuff. And I'm thinking of.
That was a beautiful show, by the way.
Thank you.
Is it still up anywhere for people to see?
I believe it's still in part of Shoebox Projects.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. Christine, can you share that link so people can see that?
For sure. I'll get it right now.
Thanks.
Let's see. Again, with Christine, I'm going to be curating a show that's going to be, it's called Horizon 2.0. And I don't know when the prospectus is going to go out, but this is for digitally augmented landscapes, that saying out there that landscapes, you get a photograph, unaltered photograph, and it's pure fiction. Photographs are pure fiction. That's what happened with that one instant, and it's just your point of view, no reality to it. So let's see what you can do digitally. Take your photographs and make them not what they started out as, or code something, or but that'll be coming out. So I'm keeping busy. Is that
You are keeping busy. You're always busy. Yeah, I'm really excited to sit down with you at Keep Pi and talk about what all this means in the next couple of years for you, and how you see your practice changing, and what the goals are that you have for yourself that you want to work towards in the next
damn goals.
God. Get on that. That's your homework.
Oh my God, that's been my homework for 5 years.
Well, I mean, I think that you've achieved so much of the things that we talked about at the first Keep Pi. All the things that you had talked about wanting to do, I think you definitely reached those goals, and you've really found ways to get to them. And also you strategized and problem solved in a way that made them achievable. I mean, I think often we have an idea, right? And we think about it and we're just trying to get this thing from here to make it into this like physical 3-dimensional object or something that's tangible, right? And it's so hard, but you've been really, really good about problem solving, finding tools, playing with things, taking advantage of stuff that's around you, and really, I don't want to say monopolizing it, but like, I don't see anyone doing what you're doing. And certainly not in the spiritual nature of the work. I think there's a lot of people that use, CGI, and they're creating these kind of fantasy worlds, but feel spiritual and they don't feel connected to the human being, and you don't feel like you're having an experience when you are in the same space with them. And I think that your work does that. So anyway, congratulations. It's a great show.
Thank you. It's up for another week. I take it down Saturday. I think about 3 o'clock is when they like us to leave it up until, so I will be at the gallery on Saturday.
So everyone get there before 3, and you get to
Right.
see Karen and talk to Karen about the work before it comes off the wall.
Right, Friday from 5 to 9 is our closing reception, and I will be there for the closing reception. And boy, do I wish I could take the show down at the end of the night, but no. I gotta go back to the gallery and take it down.
All right. Well, one extra day that everyone.
One
gets a
extra day.
chance. Yeah. Yeah. Congratulations. And thank you both, Christine and Karen, for having me tonight. Again, I'm a big fan. I would love to talk to you anytime about your work, Karen. And I can't wait again to work together and keep high in the next couple weeks and see what the future holds.
Thank you so much. And it's, been very, very good for my soul. This
Good.
time.
Yay.
See you in a couple of weeks.
All right. Sounds good. Bye.